but I see some dusty stuff over here, and that's what I really love to see. So last night we spent a nice night in New Orleans. Saw a little bit of the craziness that goes on during Mardi Gras, because Mardi Gras is right now. But right now we're in Covington, which is north of New Orleans, and we've been invited by Eric to come and visit his garage. Thanks, Eric.
Hey, Tom.
And we're here because of Ray Evernham. Now, how did that work? Let me see. We're in New Orleans, just north of it, and Ray's, hundreds of miles east. How far is Mooresville, we think?
It must be 800 miles or so.
Wow.
I guess.
If you remember back to when we visited Ray's shop and he showed us his IROC Camaros, and then back to Lime Rock when actually Ray said, come and drive one of those Camaros, and I got to drive the orange barn find. Well, Ray got those cars from Eric, and they were sitting in this garage. So they're not here anymore. Yep. But I'm curious, I gave Ray credit for finding those barn finds, but you found the barn finds. How did you find those cars?
Actually, I've always been interested in vintage Trans Am, and I've never owned a vintage Trans Am car. So I answered an ad to buy a Boss 302 out of Wisconsin. And the guy said, well, no, I sold the Boss 302, but I have this IROC car that's been converted to an SCCA GT1 car. And it was cheap. It wasn't a lot of money. So I bought it, and he said, I think it's an old IROC car. So that was the yellow one that is a basket case now. I was looking for sources for how to find out what's original and what's not, because the cars were built, there's only 15 of them, and most of them have been chopped up. So I found a guy that was at the time in San Francisco, and he moved to Washington State, and he made a deal. I had a 427 Corvette that I traded for the orange car, and we met in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then both went back home with our cars.
So you went with your trailer, he went with his trailer.
and it started snowing while we were transferring the cars, and it was like snowdrift to go on the side of the car and against the trailer. I enjoyed owning the car, but because of doing a lot of SCCA racing, I never had time to restore it.
That's the orange car.
The orange car. Orange and the yellow car, both
orange
of them.
And yellow, okay.
I liked owning them, and I liked researching the history, which I gave all of that research to Ray, and Matt Yoakum does a lot of work with him. Racing is scheduled, and you always have to be ready for the race. And restoring old cars is not scheduled, so it always gets pushed back. Yeah. So I knew I was never going to get to him. So Ray had an interest in him, and I saw that he was reviving IROC. So I said, well, this is a good match. And
well, you don't have Camaros here anymore, but I see you've got other cars.
Yeah, there's one Camaro in there.
Yeah, well, okay, so would you show me this?
Sure, come on in.
I mean, I have a Corvette race car, but this is a big block.
Right.
A Productions, big block, and small block, which would be a 327 or a 350, would be a B production. So we'd be on the track together, but you'd be a straightaway ahead of me.
Yeah, I hope so.
This car has vintage racing history? I mean, racing history back to the old days?
Apparently it was a sheriff's sale car around Columbus, Ohio somewhere, or Cleveland, Ohio, I'm not sure which town. And a guy prepared it for SCCA racing, and it was in the 1970 runoffs as a B production car. So it was at one time a small block. Trans Am started to allow Corvettes in, and IMSA had the Camel GT series. The guys that owned the car went to pro racing, and they ran with Trans Am and Camel GT. And they seem to change the motor every race. They had a 351 race, a 454 the next race. They were sort of plug and play on motors.
Yeah.
So I tried to save as much of the history as I could, and left much of the original paint. The red is redone, and it wasn't red. It had some funny blue stripes on it. But I wanted to keep the originality as much as possible.
Do you have power steering on here?
Yeah, I've added modern power steering.
Yeah. Is that the one that mounts in the column?
No, this is a Borgeson unit. It's just a more modern box with adapter brackets to put it on the old car. It works great. Put it in and never had to touch it again.
Wow, cool. So, but I see some dusty stuff over here, and that's what I really love to see.
Okay.
A Camaro, is this a race car?
This is a street car. I bought this in Houston after I moved to Louisiana. So I went back and got it on the auctions and everything that the Restomods, kind of like your Woody, are the hot thing to have. So I bought this as a roller. The guy had a 454 in it, and I bought it as a roller, and I put in an LS3 and a 6-speed. Take a look at the under hood stuff here. This one's not finished, but it's getting close.
Oh boy.
So I got vintage air, 2012 Corvette 25,000 mile motor from a wrecking yard, and everything's close to being hooked up, but then the racing season came along and the Corvette went back in the work spot, back on the lift.
Hey guys, Hagerty Marketplace has auctions you can trust from a name you know. It's free to sell with dedicated support before, during, and after your auction. Hagerty Marketplace Auctions makes it easy to get the most out of your car. Click the link in the description below to find out more. So that's a modified C3 Corvette over here.
Yeah, this car's got an incredibly interesting history.
Really?
But it's a short history. The guy in Virginia got this car brand new in 1969, and it's a 427, 435 tri-power convertible side pipe car. Really a very collectible 69 Corvette. And he did a little street racing, and he got interested in road racing. So he converted it to a road race car.
Really? Like a race car?
Yeah.
So I don't see a roll bar in there or anything.
Yeah, the roll bar, somebody cut it out at one point, but I have it.
Ah.
And it was just a bar, it wasn't a cage.
Okay.
And he realized he was chopping up his childhood dream car. So he bought a Raggedy 68 and he raced in that car. But this car actually has an SCCA logbook. It has a short SCCA history and A production. It only had about 27,000 miles on it when he blew the engine in it. That's the tri-power setup for it there. And somewhere around here, under that, in that bag is probably about a 70 to 71 LS6 engine that they bought to replace the blown engine.
So what would your intention is to make it a street car, make it a race car?
You know, I thought that this might have been a good crossover car where you could
drive to the track,
go out and have a little fun on the track with it, but not be an all-out competition car. And the car is still on the original title from when the guy got it.
So you're the second owner?
Yeah.
How'd you find it?
Surfing the internet, which gets me in a lot of trouble.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw this car, and again, I was looking for a vintage Trans Am car, and I bought this car. You know, I was looking for a vintage Trans Am car when I bought the 67. It has Trans Am history, but post 72. So it's not true.
Yep.
But
Will you leave the flares on it?
Yeah, I was going to leave the flares. I think it's, without having the original block, I'd want to keep it a hot rod.
Yep, I get it. And do I see one coupe sticking out back there?
Yeah, there is. There's a 65 back here. No race history, but some interesting history.
I like your focus on history. I dig that.
This car, I kind of had the idea to build a Grand Sport replica. And I was looking at eBay, and this car was on there back many years ago for $6,000, and it didn't sell. Well, I called the guy, and he had a wrecking yard in Omaha, Nebraska. And he said, yeah, this car has been here since 1971. So a local doctor owned it, and he was turning into the country club, and he hit the brick columns by the gate. I'm not going to say that the guy was drinking, but you know, he may have been. So I bought this as kind of a firewall back car to build the Grand Sport. And when I got it home, I said, well, it's too nice. You know, I don't want to chop it all up. It's still got the lips for the fenders that usually get ground out. The fiberglass from the firewall back is all no hit and only hit the right front corner.
Did you buy it with the primer on it like this? Or
yeah, it was sitting just like this.
Okay.
They had obviously taped off the windows and doors and stripped it. But the wrecking yard belonged to the guy's father, and I think the father must have passed away because the guy that I talked to was clearing out all of the inventory. And it was just so interesting. He had like a split window coupe in the wrecking yard that was restorable, and somebody else bought that while I was there. He just had rows and rows of these really interesting cars. So when I dropped the Grand Sport project, I said, well, this might be an old age project, you know. And this is probably the only car I own that I would consider restoring at this point. I'm getting old enough that I'm probably not going to do too many more of them.
So it's a small block car?
I actually talked to the doctor.
Oh, wow.
I called him and he said, you know, I remember the car, and he said it was a high horsepower small block. Because part of the original story was that it's supposed to have been a 396 car. Well, when I got it home and I researched the VIN number, it was too early. 396s were made later in the year. This is an early car. So I tried to find the 327. I called the shops up there that dealt with the wrecking yard, and they couldn't find the block anywhere. Nobody knew what happened to the block.
So this, I mean, the seats look pretty cherry, and it's been in that yard since '71. It's got to be a low mileage car, I guess, right?
Yeah, again, this one almost is exactly the same miles as that car, at 27,000.
We have a nice parts department. Wow.
Yeah, I've got just tons of C2 and C3 Corvettes in here because I've owned so many of them. And you buy them and you put new parts on, but the old parts are not worth, they're worth too much to throw away, but not enough to do anything with, and so you save them.
I get it, yeah. I mean, you've got two projects here, the convertible and the coupe. What's your game plan? What would you hit first?
I'm going to try to get the, actually I'm probably going to sell the convertible. I'm probably going to sell the 69. I've already got one big black Corvette and I'm having a lot of fun with it. This car is similar to cars that I owned when I was, 20 years old or so. At that time, you could buy these cars running and driving for $1,500. So, I used to drive them.
I was buying Volkswagen Beetles for $1,400. So I clearly made the wrong decisions.
Things have changed. The cars that you could buy for $1,500, then they went up to $30,000. Now they're $60,000 and $70,000.
Wow.
And then if they have a special motor, they're $100,000.
Right.
You're in the barn find business, and I've been like a barn finder since I was a kid.
Me too.
We lived in New Orleans when Hurricane Betsy came through in 1965, and I was 10 years old. I guess just about to make 11, and it flooded. It flooded everything. We lived in the lower Ninth Ward of New Orleans, and it was on the bad side of the levee. But when the water went down, I went around and I found the old Sears Allstate motorcycles, Cushman scooters that people were pushing out for the trash. And I started fixing those and getting them running. And then as soon as I could drive, I think in Louisiana you could start driving at 15 at that time. Went out and bought a 64 Chevy and took the round taillights out and put square Dodge taillights in it. I put Thunderbird seats in it, and I started doing this stuff pretty much from the time I was 10 or 11 years old. And when I went to college, I lived in the New Orleans area. I went to University of New Orleans. So I took a different route to school every day. And if I saw a Corvette or a Mustang or a Camaro sitting in somebody's carport that had a flat tire, I'd jot it down. And I'd check it 2 weeks later. If it was still there, I'd go knock on the door. And I bought just tons of cars that I could use to drive. I liked the cars, and then I could turn a profit on them. And when finals come, you can push the car aside, study for finals, and then when the finals are over, you get back to work on the car and make some money. So.
Man, birds of a feather. I tell you, we were doing the same thing at the same time. Sadly, I was doing Volkswagens. So, I think we just missed. I would love to have been here when the two Camaros were here, the two IROC cars, but we got to see them, and actually I got to play with them at Lime Rock. I got to. Ray said, "I got the car for you. It's the barn find car." And little did I know that Scott Speed was waiting for me to come in so he could have his turn because he was going to actually race the car that afternoon. And I didn't see Ray waving his hands. But Eric, thanks so much.
Okay.
And if you find any more, interesting cars, don't call Ray first. Call me first.
Okay. And this time I'll call you first, and maybe I can charge Ray a little more if they're famous cars.
I think so. Okay. Cool. Happy hunting.